Hello and welcome back to another episode of Collider Jedi Council. This is the show where we pretty much just geek out about Star Wars. Every week we talk about the movies, it's the video games, it's everything relating to Star Wars, and we present it to you guys out there. I'm Kristian Harloff, aka Darth Harloff, joined as always by the Council. First, you know him, Mark 2D2, Mark Ellis. What's up, man?
You know, every week I say what a great show we have for you, and I mean it. But this time, like, wow, there's a lot of stuff to talk about.
So much to talk about. And joining us, as always, he is Obi-Jon Kenobi, John Campea.
Just quick correction. I have changed my name. Sure. I am now Fartbox of the Knights of Ren.
Well done. I don't think you want to stick with that one.
I love it.
Mark brought the point up here. I was home yesterday, and these pictures came out, and I'm like, I'm not on Movie Talk. I was like, I'm not on Movie Talk.
We missed you on Movie Talk, yes.
And I knew
we
it.
Were on. We rocked that thing.
I knew that it was going to be, and I'm like, oh, maybe they'll wait until Jedi Council. And I knew that wasn't going to happen at all. So I watched. I wanted
I
to
believe the words from Mark. I believe the words Karloff. I believe that those words came
I think
from
those did.
Mark
No, but I
Ellis
did
at
mention
some
that your
point.
wife had you locked up in
later.
a safe place because you were going to go crazy over these pictures. And if you were on Movie Talk yesterday, we would have gone about 4 hours. So
and that's what I'm saying. It's probably a supersized episode today. Sorry, Dennis. I wanted to really get into this because this is the most we've really learned about The Force Awakens so far. We'll talk about all these stories here in our first segment, which is simply called Star Wars Movie News. That's everything going on in the world of the movies in the Star Wars universe. This could be from The Force Awakens. It could be from Rogue One, Han Solo, whatever anthology films might be coming out. We're going to talk about them. Mark, there's a couple things that happened yesterday. What happened?
Yeah, I guess we could gab about that little Entertainment Weekly spoiler stuff that happened. And by the way, it's not only a bunch of pics, it's also information that J.J. Abrams himself gave to Entertainment Weekly. So you got a lot of pictures of some cast, some familiar faces, some new faces that are now going to be old faces and different things. We haven't seen them yet. And J.J. particularly talked about the character of Kylo Ren, a gentleman that we had a discussion about last week as to what his origin was. Well, it looks like a couple things went down in that interview that we got that Kylo Ren might not be his actual name. That might be actually a reference to the Knights of Ren that he is a part of, and that lightsaber that he's got that everybody looks and they liked it and it looks cool on the cover of Entertainment Weekly, he built that himself because he's a huge fan of some guy named Darth Vader. Kristian, you got all this news. You saw all these pics. What do you make of this?
Oh, there's so much. I mean, you covered a fraction of it there with the stuff as far as the
tiny
a fraction as far as the story elements go. But I figure what we should do first is because and again, on Movie Talk, there was only so much you guys could talk in depth about the pictures. That's why we've got the show here. We're going to look at the pictures first, kind of analyze, speculate, see what we think, give our overall thoughts on the pictures. Then we'll move into some of the story elements of what we heard and things that we heard from JJ. So, Dennis, can we get the first picture up there? You've got Kylo Ren right off the top there because it goes off the point of what Mark said that there's a lot of detail given the most about Kylo Ren in this issue. And he's on the front. And a lot of people have kind of been saying from the parallels that they've mentioned so far, it looks like he's going to be not the antagonist, but almost like the guy, the parallel to Luke Skywalker throughout this thing. But this particular picture itself is incredible. I love how epic it looks with the snow. Maybe that's on Endor. Maybe. What do you guys think?
It looks like Lambeau Field to me, but it could be a new planet as well. It's just such a cool image, first of all, that if these are the kind of things that we get from this new movie, visually, it's going to be stunning to watch. And you make a great point, Kristian. Up until yesterday, I thought that Daisy Ridley was going to be the person that we follow mostly in the new trilogy. It's going to be her story. That may still be the case, but on the other side of the Force, it might be Kylo Ren, where he's not just going to be this one-off cool-looking villain like something like a Darth Maul. He's going to be the guy that we are following his character arc in this trilogy, and that he's not necessarily a one-note bad guy. Yeah. There's a lot of layers to him, and as JJ and you guys both pointed out last week, he might be a familiar face to this franchise.
John, what do you think about the actual cover of the issue?
Well, the cover itself is fantastic. Fantastic. I said on Movie Talk, this is a poster that goes on your wall.
Yeah.
People who fight in the snow are tougher than people who don't fight in the snow. I doubt it's Hoth just because it's so much forest.
Not Hoth, Endor.
Oh, you think it might be Endor? Possibly in the aftermath of the Death Star.
I think that's where he finds his mask. I think that's where he finds Vader's helmet.
That would make total sense that would be the case. look, he just looks so incredible. Everything we heard in that story from him. JJ goes to great lengths drawing the comparison to Luke. Luke, young guy, goes off on his own hero's journey, gets involved into a world that's bigger than his own, and sees himself as the hero in his own story. I really love that. When JJ said that, you know, all these people on the light side and the dark side, they see themselves as the hero of their story. And those, I've always said, are the most dangerous and most awesome screen villains, the villains who think they're the heroes. Those are the ones that you really got to look out for. Those are the ones who are most dangerous. You know, we talked on Jedi Council last week. I had told you that I had a source inside Disney who told me that one of these guys who we're seeing presented in the trailers and everything, one of the names that we're being presented with is not their real name. Now, I just thought they meant, like, for instance, Kylo Ren, that Kylo Ren, it wasn't even, that name isn't even going to be in the movie. It's going to be something totally different. But then JJ in this interview goes on and says, you're going to find out, first of all, Ren's not his name from the Knights of Ren, which is instantly intriguing. Yes. I'm so intrigued by what are the Knights of Ren. That's incredible. Maybe it's the Ewoks left over on Endor. I don't know. Maybe they raise him from a little baby and that's how he gets the mask. Perhaps. But then JJ follows off and tells them, by the way, Kylo's not the name he starts off with. He's born with a different name.
Yeah.
Boom! Instant. Hair standing on the edge of my arms.
And that
totally psyched.
And I want to get into a lot of that with him because this is another picture, and we'll talk about kind of more with the Knights of Ren and the speculation that we've speculated on this show in general. And we'll get into all of that in just a little bit. But I want to kind of go over all these pictures here, get through these, and then we can start talking a little bit more in depth on maybe story points that we think are going to happen. All right, Dennis, what's the next one? It's funny because
this is what Mark got excited about.
Yeah, and I get it.
It's the greatest character in the movies is R2-D2, and then his buddy C-3PO's got a new arm. How can you not get geeked out over the new red arm?
I just want to know that maybe he must have been attached to this arm because in 30 years, or maybe it just happened recently, I don't know, but they couldn't find a new gold arm for him anywhere. But I guess he doesn't care. What I liked about seeing these two is the first characters that ever introduced you to this world. There they are, front and center. They're looking like they haven't missed a step, minus the red arm. So, John, did you get pretty nostalgic seeing these two?
Look, in the midst of all the excitement that we have about the new Star Wars films, there's a different level that comes when we are reminded that this is a part of a larger universe that has been a part of our lives for 30 plus years. There's a reason why that first Star Wars trailer got us all very excited and very happy. But the second Star Wars trailer, when Han and Chewie show up and says, you know, Chewie, we're home,
right,
that it takes it to a new level. When
right,
we see the Falcon and seeing C-3PO and R2-D2 does that for us. It reminds us once again that we're home again. We're home. This is the Star Wars we grew up with.
Right.
And it's so, the red arm intrigues me. Are things so rough for this new government, this new rebellion, whatever they're calling it now? It's so rough that we got to keep him with the red arm. We don't have money for maybe there's something else totally different. Maybe his arm just got spray painted 5 minutes before.
It also might be something that maybe is like if you look on the side of it, it's got like different kind of buttons. Maybe that particular unit it's a design that doesn't come in out of the design.
Or they had to salvage it from another type of droid.
Yeah, the droid.
On a new arm.
I'm sure that's where I think we're gonna kind of fall into the other canon stuff. But Mark, you see these.
You guys are missing the obvious play here. Is that Chewbacca got upset at him and finally, as Han promised, ripped his arm out of his socket.
That would be funny if they called back to that.
And I'm not a huge fan of the fact that C-3PO lost his arm. I want to know what happened. I hope he gets a gold arm back eventually. But seeing R2-D2 and C-3PO in particular, it just reminds you that again, seeing them in a new thing, it's like we're bringing the back. We're not just telling a new story. We get all those classic characters that you grew up loving. It's why we love Star Wars in the first place. Can't wait to see the new guys. We need the old guys there too.
All right, Dennis, what's next? Now, we got Poe Dameron here walking away from the X-Wing, the black and the orange. I love this picture. I think it's just subtle. It's super subtle because this is why you bring Oscar Isaac into this universe. You look at his face, you know he's the cocky pilot who's confident. He's walking out. He's going to be the Han Solo of this trilogy, I think. He's going to be that guy that he's intelligent, he's smart, he can be suave, he can be funny, and he can kick ass. And it looks like I even love the X-Wing, the black and the orange.
That looks really cool.
And then you got the little robot, the little droid in the background, the classic droid, again, showing us, like John said before, we are back to the universe that we know. And it's just that look from him going, yeah, I'm here. I'm Poe Dameron. Don't worry about my name. I'm awesome.
Don't worry about my name.
What do you think?
Well, as always, I believe it's Gong Droid just playing it cool as always in the background there. And Poe Dameron, I just like the look on his face and the fact that it looks like he's got a little bit of a cut or something, that he just saw some action somewhere. It looks like he went up against a force that he's never encountered before, and he has to report back immediately because this cocky guy got knocked on his tuchus a little bit, whatever he just saw in an X-Wing. But you're right, he is going to be the Tom Cruise as Lieutenant Pete Mitchell of this movie. He's the cocky pilot. You need a guy like that in Star Wars. He's definitely the right dude to do it.
Yeah, and it looks like it's like whether it be Yavin 4 or wherever he might be, because if you look in the background of that picture, you've got another X-Wing in the back with the blue stripe. You've got another Rebel pilot or Resistance pilot or whatever the hell faction it is now on the left walking away with his helmet. So, John, what did you think of the picture?
I think he looks like he really needs to go to the bathroom. I'm looking. That's the face of a guy who's been on like a 14-hour surveillance thing, and now he's got to go. First of all, it looks great. Again, more elements reminding us that we're home again. The classic jumpsuit and all that kind of stuff. That's fantastic. I don't think he's going to be the new Han Solo of the new trilogy. I think Han Solo is going to be the Han Solo of this trilogy because he's living past the episode 7. Right. But I don't feel super confident about that. But it looks terrific. It's got all the elements that we want. It's got the new. It's got the classic. Very pleased.
All right, what's next? I think that we're gonna have it
feels like Christmas morning. I'm just ripping open presents
so
under
great.
the tree.
And when you look at this picture, says so much, and it's you have the ultimate fan in J.J. Abrams, who at this point is losing his mind, sitting down and writing Star Wars with Lawrence Kasdan.
I mean, losing my freaking mind. I'm sitting here taking notes with Lawrence Kasdan.
And not only are you taking notes of Lawrence Kasdan, you're doing it on a Star Wars set. I mean, look at that.
Imperial, too.
This looks like I think this is going to be Starkiller Base that our own Mark Ellis was able to make JJ reveal at Comic-Con. But what I loved about this, not only is that they showed a little bit of this in that behind the scenes footage stuff, but then when you read inside that Entertainment Weekly article and you hear that JJ at first said, no, I don't think that, I think I want to watch, I don't want to be involved, I'm going to be a fan. And then she just says, like, what do you think Luke, where is Luke Skywalker? Who is Luke Skywalker? And he went, that question alone made him say, well, wait a minute, because if I said to any one of you guys on the table right now, and I was like, okay, John, I want you to tell me, you're able to create and tell me whatever you want as far as where Luke Skywalker has been from Return of the Jedi until now. Look at your face. You're starting to smile already. Yeah. You're geeking out. And you're not the guy that could possibly direct. And you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Why am I turning this down? Where has Luke been? Where's Han been? And his head starts racing, and right there he goes, yes. And then fast forward to this. And he's sitting down with Lawrence Kasdan. What I found fascinating, though, was that Kasdan had already been writing the Solo spin-off movie before they even started writing Episode 7. That's the thing that went, okay. So, and we're going to get into Solo in a little bit, but that was a big thing. But, John, you look at this picture, you see Kasdan and J.J. Abrams there, where J.J. almost looks like Luke to Kasdan's Obi-Wan. How do you feel about this picture?
Oh, well, it's fantastic. And look, the very fact that George Lucas isn't here anymore. Some people are happy about that.
Well, he's not dead.
Yeah. But he's not in the Star Wars universe anymore. I still think he would have a massive contribution to make, even though I wouldn't want him directing it. There's that one great black and white picture that got it, remember? Taken from outside a restaurant. I was looking through a restaurant window, and it's JJ and it's George Lucas sitting down across from each other. Very shortly after they announced JJ was directing, I thought, oh, man. If I could pick one moment to be a fly on a wall, it would be right there. The next best thing, you're sitting down with Kasdan. Again, this is going to be the constant theme of today's show. It's mixing the new with the classic. We got J.J. Abrams, a great visionary filmmaker of today, with the guy who brought us so much of what is iconic and awesome about Star Wars in the first place. Again, we see this blending of the two. And you're right. The analogy of it looks like Luke sitting at the feet of Obi-Wan. It's terrific. It couldn't be more perfect than they're sitting on the steps so casually. And what is clearly supposed to be a very intimidating, ominous kind of set in whether it's the Starkiller Base or something else Imperial. You can tell by the patterns of the lights on the side. That's a dead giveaway for an Imperial thing. It's just fantastic.
This picture gives away a lot because it shows that Abrams and Kasdan are both Sith Lords because their scripts are red. If you take a close look, that's a red-colored script, which means you do not copy that, and if you do, you will get shot on sight. I like what this picture represents because it's not only Kasdan and Abrams, the old and the new, coming together, it's also those guys sitting on a physical set as opposed to a green screen. That's actually something that a lot of crew members built over time, and now we're going to film a scene on that.
Only the stairs are real. The rest is a matte painting.
It's all fake. It's all fake, but it looks really, really real.
All right, Dennis, what's next? So, and I think that this is the one that, you were raving about this yesterday, John, and I couldn't agree more. Captain Phasma is here to stay. I don't care. Like that name, I know a lot of people were kind of up in arms about Captain Phasma, how it sounds a bit cheesy and a bit hokey and a little old school. Well, guess what? J.J. Abrams said it is old school. It comes from an old, what is it, Mark? Like a 1960s movie or whatever it says in the article. I can't remember, but it was from an old movie he had said that he referenced and he had been watching, and it just sounded cool to him. She is going to be one of the more memorable characters that I think we've ever seen in Star Wars. And what I also found incredibly fascinating as well was that what they had said in this article was that factions of the First Order is kind of a division or a split off the Empire and might not be the only division or split. So hear me out here. What if Captain Phasma and Donald Gleason's character, who is, I forget his name,
General Hux.
General Hux. Let's say that those two, and perhaps Supreme Leader Snoke, let's say that those are the ones who are running a specific division, maybe the larger of it. Then the First Order is Kylo Ren and whoever else he's running on the other side.
And the Knights of Ren.
And then, well, he's not part of the Knights of Ren anymore, I don't think.
He's not part of the Knights of Ren.
I don't know. We don't know. We don't know that. So it's possible because I originally thought maybe that Captain Phasma with that badass cape and that gun, which almost looks like a lightsaber, by the way. This very
it does look like the hilt of a lightsaber. It's actually very specifically, I think, very intentionally, I think looks like the hilt of a lightsaber.
Right. So I mean, I don't know. I wonder if she's going to be force sensitive at all. But what I always thought was that she's going to be running side to side with Kylo Ren. I'm not feeling that anymore. But the overall look, as far as Phasma goes, that's incredible. Mark, how are you feeling about this?
There's some carbon scoring on that uniform. It looks like she's seen some action. I love the way the gun looks as well. And her name, Phasma, which I think is a cool name. Abrams actually, it's a nod to a 1979 horror movie called Phantasm, where there was a really cool costume and a lot of neat effects. And he kind of harkened back to that and gave it a little nod with that name. But the way it looks to me is that might, I think that this character, Gwendolyn Christie's character, is falling in line with whatever Supreme Leader Snoke wants to do. And then if that's chasing after Rebels, that's chasing after Kylo Ren, that looks like the closest thing you're going to have to a bounty hunter like a Boba Fett, to me anyway.
John, and you love this picture.
I do. I completely adore this picture. And I read one theory online, which I dismissed initially, but now I'm actually giving a little bit. What if she is an Inquisitor? What if Captain Phasma is herself a new breed of Inquisitor? It's an interesting thing. It gives a little bit more credence to why does it look like she's got a lightsaber built into the hilt of her gun? Not really sure. Look, for those people who go off on the names, one of the things that Star Wars sometimes takes some ribbing for over the years is the fact that why does every villain have to have, I will give myself an evil name. I will be Darth Tyrannus. I will be, Sidious. I will be Plagueis. I will be Dr. Evil. No, like you'd never think, well, look, if you heard the name George St. Pierre, you would think that sounds like the guy who's preparing your pastries, okay? He's not, you wouldn't think he's one of the most lethal hand-to-hand martial artists the world has ever seen, but that's what George St. Pierre is. Captain Phasma totally works for me. The look is iconic. It's great. It reminds me a lot of the first time I saw Darth Maul. Not that I'm trying to get into prequel stuff, but you saw Darth Maul and you're like, this is an image I'm going to remember. You see this person coming, you're just hoping, I hope it's not me they're looking for.
It's also going to give some credibility back to the Stormtrooper. Is what she's going to do also.
She looks like she can hit her target.
Yeah, and so I absolutely adore this look. I can't wait to see her in action. I do think that she could be an Inquisitor, and I still think Kylo Ren could be one as well too. I wouldn't be surprised if the Inquisitors kind of morphed into the Knights of Ren. I don't know.
Can I just point something out here for a second? Dennis or Wendy, you might have to help me up here. We might have to do a little camera movement here. I just gave everybody a heart attack. But let's look at this image back here. As I try to get around the Inquisitor, I'm going to knock things down.
John Madden's going to break down the slow-mo footage.
I'm going to take your mic for a second. All right, ladies and gentlemen. If you look here at the gun. You see these I don't know what to call them, whether the grips or something along those lines.
Lightsaber things.
Yeah, like basically lightsaber things. You've got the multi-leveled rings on the hilt and stuff like that all built in. And clearly there is space in between the square part of the gun and the rounded barrel. There's a little bit of space there. Now, if we head over here, and you're not, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but on the, if you pull it up yourselves at home if you want to. But on Luke's belt here, hanging in the classic poster, we see almost the same thing. We see those black striations, the grips of the hilt, whatever, multi-ring things. It does look, I don't think it's by accident.
No, I don't think it's by accident either. And I'm wondering at what, let's say, I would say, let's just go into crazy theory. Let's say that is indeed a lightsaber that we've heard the rumors that the lightsaber, and I think they even say it at this point, and it's not a rumor anymore. They confirm it in Entertainment Weekly that lightsaber, the initial one, is found from Cloud City, the one that was Luke's in Episode 4, that was Anakin's. What if this is the beginning of the movie? What if that lightsaber is, because it does look like the one that Luke had. It does.
One of the tidbits that was given away in the article is that Princess Leia has acquired Luke's old lightsaber, which in turn belonged to Anakin, so it was somehow found after disappearing into Cloud City.
And we'll find that out. So maybe the Empire at one point found it. Maybe she has it on the gun. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's just another lightsaber. But overall, she looks great.
I love that the Canadian guy on the crew is the one that's analyzing the guns. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me.
All right, what's next? I think that this is where we can really, we can get into this, dude. First of all,
boy.
No one's mentioned how tall those stormtroopers are, because Adam Driver's 6'5". Those stormtroopers are pretty tall.
It's a good 6'1", 6'2", yeah.
Well, remember, according to Princess Leia, stormtroopers seem to have a height requirement. Aren't you short for a stormtrooper?
Yeah, well, Boyega's pretty tiny, too, and he was a stormtrooper. But this is where we can really get into this dude, man, because going into what the Knights of Ren are, and it looks like they were an organization that were pretty much started up to replace Sith Lords. So much here because you have Kylo Ren now with the stormtroopers. I remember at one point in the episode, at one point of the show, we weren't sure exactly if we thought he was going to be with the Empire, what the deal was going to be. He is going to be with some kind of faction, which it looks like the First Order. It looks like he's the Vader of the First Order. Maybe Phasma's the Vader of the other faction. I think that would be fascinating to see bad guy versus bad guy. It's almost like when the WWE started doing that towards the end, everyone lost their minds. I think that would be really cool to see that happen down the line. But this particular shot and the mask. Now, they talked about the mask. Now, here's the thing that I found interesting. And we said that he had an obsession with Darth Vader. And they said that the mask was a bit of an homage to
the Vader's mask. Yeah.
Now, it also has a very, it looks like Darth Revan's mask. I mean, you put it side to side with Revan's mask, and they said that you're going to find out where the mask actually came from. I'm still convinced that this dude has been searching for relics. Now, whether or not it is going to be actual Darth Revan's mask, I don't know. Probably not. But I would not be surprised if that mask comes from a time of when the Sith were ruling the galaxy years and years beforehand, thousands of years beforehand. And as far as the Darth Vader being the homage to that, that's what they did when they made Knights of the Republic. When they made Darth Revan's mask, it was an homage to Darth Vader as well. Right. So that's all he was saying there. But John, you're looking at this picture, Knights of Ren, Kylo Ren. What are you thinking of this picture?
Well, I mean, my thoughts kind of go hand in hand with what the commentary we read about the picture was, is that he's walking away from a Jakku village that he and his stormtroopers are burning. So while we talked about the earlier comments that, hey, you know what? Kylo sees himself as the hero in the story. Make no mistake, he is no hero.
Right.
He is going around burning villages and things like that. I am fascinated by how shiny and clean those stormtroopers look, having come from a burning village. It's nice to see the classical motif of the orange shoulder plate, reflective of a captain or something like that. Just look at the way it looks like he's moving. Just the stride that he's taken, like that is straight out of Compton. That is pretty damn awesome.
Mark?
Yeah, I think that he's a legendary figure, according to J.J. Abrams, in that his pursuit of the dark side made him that. So he clearly has a team. He's not just somebody who's rogue, though he might be going rogue or in the process of doing that in his obsession to find a relic or a particular person that he's searching for, and maybe even ditches his previous orders with the Empire or with the First Order, whoever he was affiliated with. But he clearly has some backup, at least at this point in the story. I think these events that are depicted here take place early in the movie, and so after that happens, happens, if he still is going to have stormtroopers following him, or he's going to have stormtroopers chasing after him. Like what you said, maybe it's bad guy versus bad guy for a little bit in this movie. Either way, that looks awesome. I know I'm not supposed. I'm the guy that fights for the side of good on this show. I don't want kids to be following Darth Vader in storybooks, but that looks so cool.
There's so much here, and I think that I agree with you. I think this is the beginning, and I'm going back and forth. Like I can say at one point, I think how the movie's going to be, how it's going to start. I thought it was Boyega's going to be with Kylo Ren on this mission, and then whether or not he realizes he's force sensitive or whatever it is, turns against him. Because I think when you see that shot of Kylo Ren using the force, I think he's using that on Boyega. Now, my first shot, I always thought that the first shot of the movie was them in the was the stormtroopers. Remember, we see in the first teaser that we ever saw where they're on the hangar and they're about to land. I think they're about to land here, but I still don't think that's the first shot anymore. I think that the movie's going to open with Poe Dameron and Boyega. Like, you remember that shot in the behind the scenes when that stormtrooper's walking Poe Dameron down the hallway and he's a prisoner?
Yeah.
I think that's the beginning of the movie, and I think that that's John Boyega walking him down the hallway, and I think that that's going to wind up being lead into all of this. And I think eventually when Boyega and Poe Dameron meet up again, it's not going to go over well. It's going to be butting heads, but I think that this is where we're leading to, and I think all the pictures that we've seen so far are from the beginning of the movie, like most of them, and I think that's really smart, almost like what Mission Impossible Rogue Nation did. They showed you that plane scene right away, so you didn't know everything that was coming. And even like we were talking about today on Movie Talk, the Mars Mission to Mars, what's this? The
Martian.
The Martian. Excuse me. That movie showed the whole thing. Southpaw showed the whole thing. This, even with the pictures, you're getting just the stuff in the beginning. We know about Jakku. What else do we know about? I don't know, not much. So. Is there anything else about Kylo Ren or the Knights of Ren? Here's something crazy, and this was floated out there a couple times on Twitter yesterday. Either one of you guys, do you think it's possible that Luke Skywalker started the Knights of Ren, lost control of them, and bailed?
I think certainly it's possible. I mean, there were all these stories when I was a kid reading the novels that, back when I read, is that Luke wanted to start some sort of Jedi temple, some sort of foundation to pass on the Force, because there were so few people that were Force sensitive that you don't want to completely lose this. We also want to be very careful about how you handle it. So if Luke did create something and then somebody went rogue, then he just retreats to Skellig Michael Island or wherever the hell he goes to be like, I can't handle this Force crap anymore. Maybe that's why. I'm not sold on that, but it's definitely possible.
I think maybe Luke Skywalker founded the Knights of Ben, and then when he lost control, they, as a final screw you to Luke, they said, "We're going to call it Ren," and then laughed at him.
He had the Knights of Stimpy, and then they're like, "Nah, Knights of Ren."
Do you think there's a chance that he started it?
Well, look, how many Force sensitive characters are left in the universe after Return of the Jedi? So, I mean, you got Luke. And there may be a couple of unknown players. Unlikely, since, I mean, maybe there still were Inquisitors around at the time. I don't know. There's certainly no reference to them whatsoever. So I think that leads credence to the idea, look, if there was a Force group of some sort, you got to consider that there's a high probability that Luke was the founder of it. It's definitely got to be a consideration.
Right. Now, I think it was a couple weeks ago when I did the address to council about why we should do 2 Star Wars movies in a year.
Right.
The Knights of Ren, I hope, proves my point, because everyone's talking about the Knights of Ren right now. And what if we've got an Obi-Wan movie coming out? What if we have a Boba Fett, a Han Solo movie? But everyone's talking about, how did the Knights of Ren form? The Knights of Ren becomes like the next Boba Fett as far as like infatuation. People can't wait to see it. And then they're like, well, we can do a Knights of Ren movie, but it'll have to come out in 2022, 2021. It's like, but everybody kind of wants to see it now, to where you could do a movie to where it is either May or December, whenever the open slot is, because you're going to find, it's just an example as far as there's so much lore to come. This is just from one Entertainment Weekly article, and we're all talking about the Knights of Ren. Even if it's a book, we're going to get something about the Knights of Ren and how it formed. We better find out how they formed.
It's probably easier to do in book form, too, because if Luke is the one that founded it, it's going to be hard to cast a young Luke that's right after Return of the Jedi, but it's not as old as one in The Force Awakens. But that's just one theory as to how the Knights of Ren started. If they started somehow completely differently, totally movie you could tell, and I'll let you have another movie in that year.
Right.
Don't want it.
You don't want the Knights of Ren book?
No, not at all.
Oh, man.
Not at all. I think, look, there are some things best left shrouded in mystery.
You don't want to know how it started?
Not every Vader needs to have his mask taken off. Vader did, but that doesn't mean every Vader-esque thing needs the mask. We don't need to remove the mystery and the wonder of everything. Look, the Knights of Ren, am I infatuated? What are they? Yes. But that all I need is a two-sentence explanation. Somebody explains something in the movie in 2 sentences, 3 sentences, what they are and what they were, and eureka! That's all we need to know. I don't need a movie for everything that's got a little bit of mystery connected to it.
I think we're probably going to hear about it in the books, though. I mean, I think that with...
Oh, I'd be shocked if we didn't.
Because with Aftermath is a trilogy of books that is coming out. I wouldn't be surprised because there have been no embargoes or on any book so far. And Aftermath is getting an embargo when you can talk about it. It's not until like the 4th or something. So there's definitely tidbits and things you're going to get from that book and that trilogy that's going to tie into Force Awakens. Okay, a couple more pictures here. Next one I think is, this is JJ and Daisy Ridley. Again, a picture from what we assume is the beginning of the movie. Daisy Ridley with that staff again. Every picture, everything that's in, it's that staff. They're showing you that staff. Now, what the hell that staff is, if we're going to play it into the relics again, and maybe that's why Kylo Ren is hunting them, possible. But this is just, to me, it just proves location. John, do you like the picture?
I do like the picture, and I think with the staff, it leads a little bit more credence. Like, this is going to be one of those situations where it's becoming so obvious it can't possibly be true. I am more and more believing that Kylo Ren is a Skywalker or a Solo, whatever the naming convention is when a couple gets together and has children in the Star Wars universe. And I believe she is too. And it would make sense, like you were alluding to this earlier, that his understanding of who his grandfather is and becoming obsessed with Darth Vader, how would he have access to that mask in the first place? But then it also makes sense that maybe Luke at some point was starting to gather any Force-like relics around, and at some point they ended up in her hands. You know, Kylo became what he is now. You know, Han and Leia decide their daughter needs to become an unknown thing, do what Obi-Wan did with Leia and Luke in the first place, send her off into hiding, but she's got this staff, and that's the thing that Kylo is really hunting and looking for. I think more and more this points towards that they are in the expanded universe, they were the twins. I don't think they're twins. But I think personally, I'm feeling more and more like they are siblings.
I agree with you 100%. I think we've been saying this on the show for a long time, that we think that he was the Solo kid and she is too. And I think you're going to see that a little more when Han Solo comes to pick her up. It's not going to go too well. But she's also tall. Daisy Ridley is a tall woman, and if you again compare it to Adam Driver, also 6'5", makes sense to cast them as brother and sister. I'm still sticking by that. I think Donald Gleason is Ben Skywalker in the expanded universe. I think that they have always wanted to play this story from what Timothy Zahn set up in the expanded universe, and I think it makes sense. We had a source a long time ago that said that the guy Michael Arndt, who originally wrote the first draft, was that he was focusing on the Solo twins, and that the Solo twins were a heavy part of this story. And I think they kept that. And I think that you're looking at one of them right there with JJ.
You guys got all that from this picture? I mean, wow, that's a lot.
Let me tell you what JJ had for breakfast that morning. Looking at this picture.
I know where he bought his shoes.
Maybe that staff is just a measuring stick. You must be this tall to be a Solo kid. I'm not going to say the staff is even that important to the story. I think that I go back to Kristian's point from the last picture, is that they could be Mission Impossibling us right now, and just because we've already seen an early shot in the film of her running with the staff, that's why we get this picture. The staff could be a ruse. Maybe it factors in somehow, but I'm not ready to buy it yet. What I get from this picture is what I've gotten from a lot of the other pictures in this article, is that the focus is on the practical effects and real costumes and real set design and stuff like that.
Okay, so the last two pictures, I think the one coming up here is John Boyega, at the crashed TIE fighter. This, to me, makes me think right away the first teaser that we ever saw, right as you hear Andy Serkis's voice of "There's been an awakening," and Boyega pops up. I think this is right after this happens. He pops up. That's his TIE fighter. I had some people yelling at me on Twitter yesterday saying, that's not his TIE fighter because the stormtroopers don't fly TIE fighters. First of all, who maybe he stole it. Maybe that shot
to get away.
The second teaser trailer that we saw, where there's a TIE fighter up in the air shooting down at stormtroopers, that could be him. Could also be Oscar Isaac in the beginning escaping. So either one, I think that's him. I think he got shot down. That's what I take from it, Mark.
Yeah, I think that's his ride, and like you said, I think that this is the same thing that we've seen, is that in the first 2 teasers we got the snippets of a few scenes, and this is just the continuation of that, because it's smart. They're not giving away too much of the story. We have a lot to analyze, but it's not everything you're going to see in The Force Awakens. It's another cool-looking shot, and it's kind of the same image that we saw on film in the behind the scenes with that crash TIE fighter, so this could be one of the things that sets off the action for the rest of the movie.
John?
Another possibility here from looking at the picture, if you look at Boyega in the picture, it doesn't look like he's running away from the debris. It looks like he's actually running around to the front of the ship.
Like he forgot something in the car.
Or
he's looking for
this
Dak.
was a TIE fighter he was just in a dogfight with. And they went down. Now he's running over there to check in on either rescue or finish off whoever it was he was just in combat with to see if they're still there. So that's also a possibility. I tend to lean your way, though. I tend to believe that's his ship. But it could be 2 ships were in a dogfight. They both went down. He's now coming from his ship and checking that one out.
Good point. And he's also one of the other guys that JJ said you've never seen Finn's last name, by the way. And JJ pretty much alluded to that was on purpose. So we don't know who he's going to be. We don't know. Same thing with Rey. I still don't think we just talked about it with her. I don't think that's her name at all. And with him, who knows what his last name is? But it could tie into something in Rebels. It could tie into maybe.
I hope not.
I hope not. Also, could be. Some people are even rumoring because of that issue in Star Wars that he could be a Solo. I hope that's not the case either. I'd like to see him be just a brand new character with a new name. Maybe it's like a classic name that was never used or something in Star Wars lore that people knew.
Porkins.
Oh yeah,
it could be the kid of Porkins.
He is too young though to be that Solo from that inference from the Star Wars. I think he's supposed to be like 22 or 23, which would not fit the timeline.
That's true because that was about 30 years or so. Yeah, it's true. Okay, next picture. And you said this yesterday on Movie Talk, John, and I also this immediately what I thought of was it took me right to episode 4 with the Jawas taking C-3PO and R2-D2, and that little dude up top. I can't remember where I read it, but someone said you can just see. I think it was Jermaine on IO9 who had said that you can already see the toys for that little dude up on top. You can absolutely picture those toys. I think that this is
wearing his Birkenstocks there.
Yeah, and I love the helmet on whatever that animal is, and the fact that she's saving BB-8. He seems to be the new R2 of the series, to where he gets himself into some trouble, but he's probably maybe who was helping. But then the little dude seemed to be helping out. It doesn't seem like he's the one that captured, because she's just kind of nonchalantly letting him free and not fighting him off, unless she reasoned with him or bought him back,
and
like
there's
Watto.
The staff.
There's the staff again. Yeah, exactly. So, John, what do you think about this picture?
Well, I was actually, my first impressions of the picture were very wrong. With the first time I saw the picture, I thought it was some kind of mechanical ride. But upon when you look closer at it, no, that's a beast in battle armor. It's Battle Cat. Yeah. That's He-Man on the top.
Right.
So, but yeah, those are the things. It took me back to the original ones. The whole, the Jawas hunting down stray droids in the desert. Who would have thought that would be a growth industry? But no, I'm just really intrigued about what's going on in the shot.
Yeah, and I mentioned on Movie Talk yesterday, this was one of the images that stood out to me because she is going to be a heroine that gets her hands dirty. She's not a princess from some highfalutin background. She's rough. She can mix it up. She's battle tested, and this is just another example of that she comes from a smaller background, but she could rise on to great things, a lot like that guy that we talk about in the classic trilogy, Luke.
She really reminds me just from that pose alone there, reminds me of Leia / Solo. She just does. I mean, like everything, she just looks like their kid. Yeah. Okay, there actually are now 2 left. All right, I think, and this one to me, I have to be hopeful for, because you see a stormtrooper right behind Daisy Ridley again with the staff, and it looks like, wait a minute, if these stormtroopers can't shoot again, because that guy's got a clear shot right there, but you see that bike up there that looks like there's some kind of, they're running towards that thing that looks like her ship. That in the first time we ever saw Daisy Ridley in that teaser trailer when she's zooming off. And I think that they're running to that, and that explosion you see from the behind the scenes featurette they don't want to kill them. They just want to capture them, and they blow up that thing off the bat. And that's when you're going to have Han come in and rescue him. But Ellis, what do you think about this picture?
I got some bad news for you, man.
Yeah.
Stormtroopers are going to miss some shots in this new movie.
As bad as before?
So I don't think that you can
That's
get worse
close,
than they
man.
were at the end of Empire Strikes Back. They're like John Starks in the '95 NBA Finals. Right. It's not going to be that bad, but they're still going to miss some shots. This might be one of them. But even like foreground and background, like he might look closer than he actually is. Right. This is another scene I think is early in the movie when our two different heroes link up and set us off on our adventure.
I mean, there's also a possibility here that the explosion we see is what prevents those guys from getting off a shot, because that is pretty damn point blank.
Looks like he's got him dead to rights.
That's why I don't think. That's why I'm hoping they're not shooting at them.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they're shooting at them.
But I think maybe the explosion, maybe something comes in to save them, something takes them out of the shot, whatever. But once again, there's the staff in her hand. Boyega wearing a very stylish leather jacket, and looks like some kind of Indiana Jones satchel he's carrying with him there as well. So
that jacket, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the jacket that Poe Dameron is wearing in that first shot? When
it's a similar mod. It's a similar cut. I'm not sure because I was looking at it yesterday, and I'm not sure if it's the exact same jacket.
It looks like
I can't
it,
get
right?
the colors
that's
to link up.
That's
yet.
why I start to think maybe it is that first shot to where Poe Dameron and Boyega meet pretty early on.
Hey, Lando borrowed Han's clothes once upon a time.
Now this is it. This is the last one here, and this is General Hux, who I know, and I'm probably everyone's going to be saying, "Ha ha, you were wrong," but I still think that this dude is not as bad as we think he is. I think that he looks bad. He looks. I mean, he's rocking that outfit there too. I could be completely off base here. He might not at all be related to Luke, and I can already see the comments. Why does everybody need to be a Skywalker kid? Because that's what the saga's about. It's about the Skywalkers, and it's Han Solo. It's their legacy, and I think that this guy is going to play a crucial part in it because we have Snoke, we have Kylo Ren, we have Phasma, and we have him as well now too. One of them's going to be good. You're going to get your classic face turn. I think it's going to be this guy. And unless the other side of that is that from his jawline alone, he could be a descendant of Tarkin. Possible. I would hope it is the former. But John, you look at this picture. What do you think of Hux?
I think you shave his head. He looks like Tom Hardy from that Star Trek movie when he was Jean-Luc's clone or whatever. I think he's a bad guy. I think he will be bad guy through and through. I don't think he's a Skywalker. Although everything you mentioned and for all the reasons you mentioned, I'm certainly not going to say that's an impossibility. It's certainly a possibility. But, you know, you're going to need... You want to populate this universe with a number of different heroes, and I think they're also going to try to populate this universe with a number of different villains. Because I think you were right. Something you were talking about earlier, which I think is something a lot of people are missing, is that I think the drama in these new movies is not just exclusively going to be about First Order versus the New Resistance. I think you're right. I think they're going to be different fractions of the old Empire and what they are now. And we could be looking at something like that. Right. And I think if you're going to do that, then you're going to need a certain number of villains as well to go along with it. That may all just be smoke, but I do think he's a villain.
I think he's a villain. I think he comes from a villainous background where he's clearly somebody put him in charge. He has that Baruch assault look to him where he's a little too young to be in that position of power without somebody pulling some strings. So probably the stormtroopers hate him. They all talk about like the kid, like the baby Huey kind of thing. But he has a lot of power, and I don't think he's a Skywalker because I don't think they would do that in the new movie where if you have Daisy Ridley's character, is the son of Han or is the daughter of Han and Leia, and then Kylo Ren is the son of Han and Leia. It's not going to be like the classic trilogy. There's the big three sitting around talking about what happened to their kids, and it's like, oh well, one's in college in the desert, the other one is joining the Knights of Ren. Oh, what about you? Look, my kid's running the First Order. I don't think that's the way it's going to go down. I don't think he has anything to do with the Skywalkers, except for the fact that he's probably looking for them.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for the pictures. Now, as far as some of the other stuff that was in that article. And again, thanks to our friend StarWars7News.com, who puts up this show every week on their site, and they have really kind of bullet pointed everything that happened.
They did an amazing breakdown.
Really great breakdown. Go check out that site if you haven't. But one of the things they wrote here is one of the most important bits of information came from the following quote. The amount of screen time the Skywalker twins may get is still unclear, although Luke's fate is obviously a key factor. Ford's Han Solo, however, will be one of the leads, piloting the Millennium Falcon alongside his old pal Chewie. Among the newcomers, Desert Scavenger Rey and runaway Stormtrooper Finn will be running for their lives with the rolling droid BB-8 trying to keep up. Eventually, all five of them end up aboard that familiar starship. Now, this is something we've talked about for a long time. We always thought Han was going to be the guy. I still think I know why Han's going to be the lead in this one, because you got to give him enough time until we don't see him
Before he
anymore.
dies.
Before he dies. Leia, I think you're going to see the second amount. She's going to be like the queen of the... I don't think she'll be the queen of the Resistance. I think she's queen of the New Republic. I think that's where you're going to see her. And then Luke, you're going to get 5 minutes at the end of episode 7.
Cracking beers like that.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Stay hydrated.
I think you're going to get it, and I'm okay with that. I am, from everything that I'm hearing so far in this article of where this story is going, I am more than okay with the fact that we see Luke the last 5 minutes, because you know you're going to get him for the majority of 8. But this kind of says, yes, Han Solo will be your lead for this one. Even hearing that Han Solo is pretty much going to be the lead in this one, you still think he's making it out of 7?
I think that just adds to my belief that he's going to make it out of 7. And you're right. This whole thing, I've heard some people grumbling online. It's like, it's not Star Wars unless Luke's in it. You got to have, I mean, you got Mark Hamill there, and he clearly grew the beard. I mean, you got to have him. He's got, no. Once again, step outside of Star Wars for a second and just go back to basic movie making. You use your characters to serve the story. And if what is going to serve this story best is Luke shows up in the third act, last half of the third act, whatever, if that's what makes the story better, makes the movie better, then that's what you do. You don't just put in Luke because he's Luke. That doesn't help the story, okay? That's what the prequels did, and that doesn't help the story. So, yeah, I'm totally good with this, and yes, I do think Han is making it out of this.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Han's going to survive. I think this just means the movie's going to be great because Han Solo has such a huge role in it. Harrison Ford said at the Comic-Con panel that he was so touched by the way that Lawrence Kasdan wrote his character and how emotional it was. And he did talk about completing the arc of emotions in a story, which I got a little, wait, is he going to die in this? But I'd like to see Luke for more than 5 minutes. If that's possible.
Right.
Like, I'd like to see him for maybe the last half hour or even earlier if we can. But I agree. I think the majority of screen time is going to be Han and Leia, probably Leia over Han. And then you're going to see the least of Luke. But I'd still like to see him more than just like, oh, by the way.
The one thing, I will not be angry, like I said, if he shows up the last 5 minutes. What I will be angry of, and you will see the Darth Harloff come out, is if they make him bad. I don't want Luke Skywalker to be bad, because not only because it's Luke and he shouldn't be bad, because I'd want to see that turn, first of all, it's because you don't need him to be bad right now. If you have, let's say that Hux is indeed bad. So there's one bad guy. Phasma's your next. Snoke's another. Kylo Ren. You don't need Luke to be bad. Now, the only reason I bring that up is because there's been rumors and grumblings that Luke could be bad, and that Luke was the one with the head down. The reason why there was that whispering in the background for the last trailer was because Luke's gone to the dark side. No. Luke Skywalker fought a hard battle to stay good in that last trilogy. You keep him good.
He already faced the greatest temptations he could have faced to go to the dark side. Like, he was literally faced with, your rebellion and your friends are all going to die unless you this, and this. Throws down in his own life, whatever, throws down his lightsaber. Nope, you're just going to have to kill me.
Right.
He already faced the biggest temptations he could have possibly faced. Now, for the people who do say Luke goes dark, I'm not going to say you're crazy, because there are some valid arguments to make there. After the fall of the second Death Star, what event could have happened to balance out the power between the Imperial remnants and thing? Luke Skywalker going bad. Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. But still, it's not consistent with what we know of the character up to this point. I think it's more likely, and I believe both of you guys have said this at one point or another, that Luke is taking on more of a role, I think just overwhelmed by everything, and the whole sense of my part in all this is done. I think he takes on an Obi-Wan Kenobi role where he becomes the hermit. He follows Obi-Wan's lead, and he goes off somewhere.
But was smarter and went to an island instead of a desert planet.
Yeah, instead of a desert planet, and kind of hid himself away from all of it to just maybe commune with the Force for the rest of until his dying days. You know, all that kind of stuff. And I think he's going to be dragged back into it, much like a Don Corleone. I think he's going to be dragged back into this at some point near the end of the film, despite his resistance.
Luke ain't going bad. Luke is not going bad. He might be a bad parent, but he's not going bad. But Luke could take out a lightsaber and cut off Han's head, and I'd find a way to justify it. But I don't think he's going bad.
No, I don't think so either.
Han was thinking something bad.
All right.
About his sister.
We actually have a lot of other stories to get through. Dennis just sighed. Let's go to the next story. Mark, what do you got?
Well, we haven't even made it out of the Entertainment Weekly realm of our news stories yet, Kristian. But this news isn't great. It's that, much like Comic-Con, J.J. Abrams said that at D23, Disney's huge expo, it's their Comic-Con, is this weekend. And J.J. said that there's going to be no new footage from The Force Awakens or behind the scenes or anything like that at this particular convention. But there is going to be a trailer coming in the fall, and that they're not going to rush it for this. Kristian, should we even bother going to this thing?
2 days ago, I was pissed off. I was like, come on, man. We're not going to see anything at all? Nothing? You're not going to give us any story or anything? And then yesterday, Entertainment Weekly comes out, and they gave me what I wanted from the trailer. I got a lot of story, but that's why I wanted the trailer. I just wanted to know stuff about the universe and what was happening. I know about the First Order and these factions. I know about the Knights of Ren. I know about just all these things that they've let out. The fact that the characters that we know have changed dramatically over the last 30 years, which you would have suspected anyway, but confirmation from it, confirmation of the names. I got a lot more in that Entertainment Weekly article than I think I would have gotten out of a trailer because there was so much story in it. I'm okay with that. Now, as far as are we going to see any footage from Star Wars Force Awakens at all? No, I believe JJ because he said the same thing at Comic-Con, that there may be something but no trailer. There was something, no trailer. But this makes me start to think they better show Rogue One. And I'll tell you why. Because the way that it is looked so far as everything I've seen with Star Wars, they're going to show whatever Beauty and the Beast or whatever, then they're going to show Marvel, Civil War, which will get a huge pop, and then they're going to end with Star Wars. If you end Star Wars with, oh yeah, and Ben Mendelsohn's in the movie, yay, bye guys, it's like, what? You just should at least show the Civil War trailer last if you're going to do that. So
right.
I would assume they're going to show Rogue One. I think they're going to focus on that. I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see some Rebel stuff. But John, do you care now because of all the stuff in Entertainment Weekly yesterday that we're not getting anything?
Never did.
Yeah.
I said for a long time, I really didn't think they were going to do a huge Star Wars pop at D23. They had their own entirely dedicated to nothing but Star Wars convention in celebration that didn't happen all that long ago. And I always thought that Disney would use D23 to pump and promote and lift up their other properties. Also, we had caught wind that they were probably going to hold off on another trailer until the fall anyway.
Right.
So no, I'm really not surprised, and I don't mind it at all. Look, D23 is going to have a lot of very cool stuff at it, but just because they're not talking Episode 7. Don't think that means they're not going to talk Rogue One. Now, are they going to show us anything of Rogue One? I'm not so sure.
Not even a little teaser thing?
I'm not really sure.
I'm hoping.
I mean, it would be very cool, and I'll be excited. But I think they'll talk about it. I also really do, though, believe that much like Disney and through their sub-company Marvel, didn't give a lot of push or a lot of attention to Ant-Man before Age of Ultron came out because they wanted all the attention focused on Age of Ultron. And then they kicked up their marketing campaign on Ant-Man after Ultron had been in theater for a few weeks. I think right now Disney wants to keep the focus on Episode 7. So they may do something for Rogue One. I doubt they'll do anything big, grand that'll take the headlines away.
Right.
They just put this out. I don't think they want to steal now the headlines away just 48 hours later from the afterglow of this incredible article that they put out. So, yeah, I won't be surprised, and honestly, it doesn't bother me. We have lots of good stuff still coming. Doesn't have to come at D23.
Mark, what are we getting at D23?
Before John started talking, I was going to say we're definitely going to get Rogue One footage. And now, after hearing that soliloquy, I'm like, God, I don't know. I was about to guarantee I would streak the convention if they didn't show some sort of Star Wars footage. And now I'm like, maybe I'll do a lap without my shirt on because I'm not sure anymore. John makes a great point that, look, Rogue One ain't coming out for another year and a half, okay? So if you show a teaser from there, that's one thing. But if you try to make it too Rogue One heavy, somewhat of it quells the excitement from the Entertainment Weekly article. On that, I am the total opposite of you. And I know that I don't know the alphabet that well, and I'm not a huge reader. I don't want to read my information about movies coming out. I want to get it through trailers. So I would have much rather never had this Entertainment Weekly article and all these spoilers given. I would have just rather seen one trailer hinting at the story and then go into the movie like that. Well, you're still going to get a trailer that's going to give you some story points. I don't think it's going to be as expansive as what we got in the Entertainment Weekly article. Maybe that was some damage control because they were trying to get footage ready and and just couldn't do it in time. But I think that we're going to see some Rogue One footage, not that much, but you got to show something.
Well, I think
right?
that we are going to get The Force Awakens as far as, because of that Entertainment Weekly article, kind of like okay, this is what we know so far. I think JJ is going to talk about some of the stuff that he spoke about.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah. But I think some people might be misunderstanding.
Right.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Is that, that means it's going to be, the screen's going dark as far as... No, I'm sure they're going to talk.
They're going to talk about it. And I think we're going to get some tidbits from him
totally agree.
as far as... He's been good like that. I mean, he has been. Anytime he talks about it, he gives you a little. He
Probably
gives you a little more.
Cast members, too.
They've been doing it well.
Yeah,
like they give you more. As far, I think you're going to get cast members for Rogue One.
I think you might have some cast members on stage from Force Awakens.
You mean people who actually be there?
Right.
Yeah,
I don't think you're getting the big three, but I think maybe Oscar Isaac or Gleason, somebody like that.
Absolutely. I think you'll get some. And maybe finally, I mean, Andy Serkis has been nowhere to be found during these things. Max von Sydow. Well, he's a little older, though, too, so I can understand him.
He can get to Anaheim.
He's in post-production on his film right now.
Serkis
is on post-production.
Right, that's true. But I think we'll get tidbits, and then I wouldn't be surprised if, very similar to what they did at Celebration, whether or not Gareth Edwards comes out or not. He's really busy right now. He may or may not be able to. But if he comes out there, they talk about Rogue One. To finally announce the cast is something that they might do because of Rogue Nation. They haven't been able to do a lot of promotion for it. That time has passed. They can do that now, maybe a little more. I would lose my mind if they showed another kind of teaser similar to what they did, right? And they showed something else, a little bit more, just a couple of, very similar to what they did with the first teaser for Force Awakens, but at the end you heard because you know he's going to be in it.
Yeah.
You know he's going to be in it.
Lose their
minds.
I might take off my shirt and streak the convention if I do. Either way, I'm going to be running naked through this thing, so check that out. Look, if they show anything like that, it's going to be so exciting. Even if they replayed the trailer that they showed at Star Wars Celebration, but the big difference between Celebration and now is that they had been filming Rogue One for about 4 weeks now. They were shooting Guardians of the Galaxy for, what, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Before they had a full teaser trailer at Comic-Con.
Right.
So it is possible to do that post-production in time.
All right, no more Rogue One talk. What's next?
Rogue One talk, Kristian. We have some set photos that we think are from Rogue One. Now, originally, these were credited as being part of The Force Awakens, but if you take a close look at some of these, you'll notice that it's the classic Stormtrooper costume as opposed to the new Stormtrooper costume, which would link up much better with the timeline of Rogue One. Kristian, what is your takeaway from these pirated photos? They're not pirated, but
They're
it's
taken from...
Yeah.
I mean,
they weren't invited to take pictures, it doesn't appear.
You got Hurt Stormtrooper. Wait, you can go back to that last one. Go back to the first one you showed there too. Like you got Hurt Stormtrooper all the way over there. Then you have the one guy standing. He made it, and then there's Dead Stormtrooper by the tree. So some kind of battle went down.
Shock outline.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about war film. All right, let's end the next one.
They were all trying to shoot that black triangle thing and ended up hitting each other.
Blew them up. The next one here you got. So these are the guys going, "Hey, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be filming us."
Man, they look like actors from the '70s doing the original Star Wars.
They totally do.
Look at the hair on some of those dudes.
I played Hamlet.
Those helmets and the dude. My favorite part of the whole thing is this dude. What's this guy doing? Look at the sunglasses. Look, he's just that face. Got the duck face.
He looks awesome.
He looks exactly like Alex Van Halen.
That's somebody who has no idea anyone has anything. He doesn't even know he's filming that day. But anyway, so I love the classic Stormtroopers. Next picture, I think, is that it? Oh, yeah, and then just the ships, the classic ramps. We're going back. That guy's still sleeping on the ramp.
Oh, yeah, this is the Imperial shuttle.
Yeah, it's that it is absolutely old school. You're going to feel like you're watching episode 4 when you're watching this movie.
You know what?
Or an episode of Rebels.
Yeah, that reason alone. You know, we were talking a little bit earlier about the going home again sort of thing. And I'm super stoked for episode 7. Cannot wait. Super hyped. Everything about it. But once we go in to see Rogue One, and we see the classic Stormtrooper outfits again for the first time since Jedi, and the Imperial shuttle and all those. Man, that's going to be a special.
And that other guy who is kind of running the Empire, not
what's
Tarkin.
His name?
I'm talking about the big dude with the cape and the mask and the weird breathy thing.
He'll be there.
Seeing
Uncle
him
Joe?
on the big screen after he gets over Padme, he's done. He's put her out of his head, and he's just focused on killing rebels. It's going to be so exciting.
It is, and what I'm also going to do is right before I see Rogue One, I'm going to watch. I want to watch in season 1 and 2 of Rebels because season 2 of Rebels will be over. I mean, season 3 will be over at that point. So I'll watch 3 seasons of Rebels before it comes out. Then I'll watch episode 4, and I'll be ready.
Side question: when does Rebels start up again?
The Rebels season 2 starts up in September.
It is in September.
Yeah, and I'm sure at D23 there's going to be some focus on them as well too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, is that it? No, there's another one. There's another picture.
There's actually after this
okay.
picture, there's actually another picture that's a little more expansive. That it almost looks like
this picture. Is this picture you're talking about right now?
no, it's the next picture.
Let me focus on this picture
yeah.
just for a second. Just for a second. I have not seen this picture so far. I've not seen this picture yet.
Okay.
Speaking of Rebels, does those not remind you of those canister things in that one episode of Rebels when they had to get them on the ship? Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing is like when Kiri Hart was asked about would Rogue One tie into Rebels, she said, we are very aware that Rebels takes place in the same time period. That was the best answer ever because it would be, it's going to, again, a nice nod to those people who watch Rebels. Not everyone watches Rebels. They're very aware of that. But it would also be really cool if they were able to set up a character or something that happened in the events of Rebels that tie into Rogue One. And it looks like just the atmosphere in general that the story team's focusing on that.
Yeah, and then you go back to War Film with there's another picture that I'm not sure if we have it or not, but it's a more expansive look at where they were shooting. And it almost looks like they're landing on a site. And you remember they just had that like image that they showed during the teaser at Star Wars Celebration with a bunch of Rebel guys running around a ship that kind of looked like that. I'm not sure if this is from the same concept art or based on that, but I get a storming the beaches kind of vibe when I see this
Storming
expansive
the beaches
picture.
of Hawaii, apparently.
Right.
Well, it looks like Yavin 4, I think, is where it's going to be. I think Yavin 4 is a lot where this battle may or may not.
Which is where the
take
Rebel
place.
base was in A New Hope. So
I think that there's been some battles there too, but well, maybe not because that doesn't actually make sense. Because then, if the Empire knew that they were there, that wouldn't make sense because they couldn't even fit. They were wondering where the
one
Rebel
of the whole
base
points
was.
of episode
so
4 was them trying
scratch
to
that.
figure out where the Rebel base was.
I think.
And also, it wasn't those types of trees you saw in Rav. It was more foresty than tropical.
I think you have a better shot of that where Poe Dameron was in Episode 7, walking away. That be Yavin 4. This could be something completely different, new planet that we've never heard of. And I love the idea. You're right, Mark. Every image that you've seen so far of Rogue One has looked like a war film. And that's what they've talked about. And people involved. Black Hawk Down, Saving Private Ryan, Zero Dark 30.
Right.
Those are the people involved in this movie. So this is going to be a type of Star Wars movie, although familiar, it's going to be very different than anything you've ever seen. Because it was I talked about Kiri Hart's answer at Celebration. That was my favorite. Gareth Edwards also had my favorite comment ever. They asked him, Pablo Hidalgo said to him, is this going to be a war? Is this going to be like a war film? And Gareth Edwards says, it's called Star Wars. Love it. All right, Mark, what's next?
All right, we're finally done with Rogue One stories. Up next, Rogue One casting news. Zhang Wen is an actor who's reportedly been brought on to play some role in the Star Wars anthology film Rogue One. The news comes a month after it was previously rumored that Rogue One had been pursuing Chinese talent. Now, Wen has starred and directed in a number of action films previously, including Let the Bullets Fly. So given that the set leaks from Rogue One just popped up a few days ago, it looks like this part of the report could be true. Kristian, your take on adding Wen to the mix?
I'm not familiar with his work, but I like, it seems even where they were going in Force Awakens with the cast of the Rey 2, and then, like you said, the previous rumor last month, I'm all for getting talent. I don't care where you get the talent from. Get the talent, make the movie better. Like you said before, John, as far as serving the story correctly, if this guy serves the story, we don't know if he's going to be a rebel, but that's a phenomenal picture. I don't know if that was from that Ray made that or Ray made that. That's amazing.
You should just give Ray his own Star Wars
that
movie.
That is amazing. So that he actually would fit in that pilot outfit. But yeah, man, I'm all for it if it serves a purpose. They're casting well over there now. So Mark, you feel any different?
I'm all for dudes and dudettes who can fight. I mean, this guy has been in action movies. He's directed action films as well. He knows what he's doing when it comes to combat, at least on screen. These are the kind of people that you want to get in your war film. It's called Star Wars. Bring them on.
John?
I'm just wanting to look up his age for a second and see how old he is. But and I feel terrible. This is coming. Okay, so he's 53 years old.
Oh, okay.
Or 52 years
He'd
old.
be like a Tom Skerritt in Top Gun.
Yeah, a little bit. Or
Yeah.
going back to what you were talking about, some ties between the Star Wars Cinematic Universe and Rebels. Who is that general that we see in the opening pilot of Star Wars Rebels Season 2?
It's a great
Could
call.
he be that general as a tie-in?
It's a great call.
It's also very racist because I'm only making that connection because they both happen to be Asian.
It's not because you look because there are also characters that it's very possible that stuff's going to happen because you look at the Clone Wars, right? Mon Mothma showed up at times, and there were other characters from the classic trilogy that showed up. I mean, like Lando shows up now, and it would make sense for them to take the characters that they're going to take and put them in that timeline. That's a great call, John. I wouldn't be surprised, even not necessarily if this is the guy who plays him, but I wouldn't be surprised if that guy shows up.
I'm trying to remember what the name of that general is.
I don't remember either, but we're going to probably know soon enough because he's going to have probably a bigger part in season 2 once that starts in September.
Right.
All right, Mark, what's next?
Finally, we are really, really done with Rogue One info. For now, we're talking about Chris Miller. Of course, Miller and Lord are going to be doing the new Han Solo film, and he talked a little bit about what comes along with that. Namely, he mentioned the pressure that comes in directing a Han Solo film, that you want to do some new things that feels exciting, but at the same time, you want to honor what was so great about the character to begin with. And then he talks about his appreciation for the character of Han Solo, where he's the perfect blend of a roguish cowboy. He's morally ambiguous, but he also has a clear moral compass. He's funny. He's off the cuff. The brief description that we got from Chris Miller's take on Han Solo seems like the movie that we'd want to see. You see it any differently, Kristian?
No, and after reading the Entertainment Weekly article again, too, I would feel a lot more confident if I was Lord Miller because this has been developed further along than even The Force Awakens has been. They know they have to take this with very tender care. They know how much Han Solo means to everyone. Not everybody, some people at this table not necessarily wanting to see a Han Solo movie, but then you throw in Lord Miller, you realize that Kasdan's been writing it and that it may play into this greater universe of the story of the way they're going to tie in even this game that's been rumored with him and Boba Fett. It's a daunting task. I mean, there's no mistake about it. It's going to be something. It's going to be a huge movie. I mean, come on, it's Han Solo. The question is, who the hell is going to be Han Solo? But John, you hear Miller's talk here about Han Solo, and is this kind of what you want to hear from this guy starting up?
It almost doesn't matter. The Han Solo movie is going to be the first bad Star Wars movie of the new Star Wars movies.
Even with Lord and Miller?
Oh no, I'm kidding a little bit. No, I love the fact that Lord and Miller are doing this. I think their sensibilities, when you think about the roguish nature of Han Solo, what better guys to do it than Lord and Miller? I mean, because we know they will be able to write Han Solo, and they're not writing the script for it. But what I mean,
it's Kasdan and Kimberg, I think.
They are going to make this work, and I'm sure they will. I still don't like that we're getting a Han Solo movie. I don't need our anthology. The Star Wars universe is massively big. Why do we continue to make it more and more small? Don't know. But I'll still be there opening day with bells on, with Mark running around shirtless. But I still, I feel my buzz gets killed whenever we talk about the Han Solo movie.
Really? Who would you want to play Han Solo right now?
I couldn't even imagine. I feel very confident that whoever they do get will be as good as you could possibly get to play the role. I have no doubt about that. I'm very confident about that. And Lord and Miller I couldn't have been more happy, other than some guy with the last name of Spielberg being attached to directing. I couldn't have been happier with it. I still wish it wasn't a Han Solo movie. It's like, you know what? We've got Han. Let's just stay with Han, and let's tell some other story from the 20,000 years of Star Wars history, from the 30 million galaxies in the Star Wars universe that are in the current timeline that you could tell stories about. Why do we have to go back to friggin' Han Solo? Why?
I think I can't wait until we'll still be doing this show.
I'm going to love it.
You're going to love it.
I'm going to love it. Of course I am.
You're going to be like, I'm so glad they decided they didn't listen to me. They didn't listen to me, and they did it. I can guarantee that right now, Mark.
I could use 10 Han Solo movies, and my trepidation from a Han Solo movie doesn't come from a casting standpoint. It comes from what story you're going to tell about Han Solo, because when that report came out and that there's this comic book where he is going to have a wife, I was like, wait. This is what I'm concerned about, okay? It has nothing to do with who's going to play Han Solo, like you said. Whoever they get to play him is going to be fantastic. I wish that Harrison Ford could be like Cher and could turn back time and we could get him in one more of these films. That's not going to be the case. So I'm not going to worry about it. Miller and Lord, I trust them from a directorial standpoint and a storytelling. I just want it to be the right story. And this even goes back to not this particular movie, just the canon. Like, what is everything that encompasses Han Solo? Because the guy is throwing a perfect game up until this point. In the 3 movies he's been in, it's been awesome. There's nothing more that I want from that character. I do want to see different stories. I just hope it's the right one.
We're going to learn so much more about him, this movie, everything in the next 3 years, because even if you take away with Lord and Miller, right, we'll find out who that Han Solo is going to be. The anthology movies, a couple of them will be out already. Episode 8 will already have been out already. And then all the canon stuff, by the way, too. I mean, look at the stuff that happened already with Han Solo's character in the comics. More stuff will happen in the books. We'll know so much more about Han Solo that we may the two scenarios might happen here, John. Where there might be certain things that happen in canon where you're like, okay, maybe I'm interested now if they're going to go down that route, and then there could be another direction where you're just like, oh, this proves my point that I don't want to see a movie.
Still would rather see a movie centered in the Old Republic.
I'm not going to argue there. Let's go to the next one.
All right, crack open your Guinness and pour your Jameson because we're going back to Ireland. Skellig Michael Island is the site of some scenes in The Force Awakens, Episode 7, and it appears that we might be shooting some more things there. The local boatmen who were contracted for a 3-day shoot for Star Wars The Force Awakens last summer had been asked to provide transport for another 4 days from September 13th through the 16th with the possibility of further contingency days. And this begs the question, will they be shooting pickup shots for The Force Awakens or will they be doing other footage for Episode 8? Now, one of the factors that's at play here is that weather hampered some of the shooting that they were originally doing for The Force Awakens, which means maybe they're doing pickups, or there's also environmental contingency plans because it is it's a safe haven for a bunch of different bird species that the Star Wars, to their credit, the Star Wars team did donate to that cause. So, Kristian, do you think that we're doing pickups? Do you think we're doing Episode 8 stuff? Do you think we're just hanging out there for a few days?
The thing that I found interesting about this article was where we were talking to the people here. It said that in terms of shooting on the island, it focused around the final climb of the steps towards the flat area known as Christ's Saddle and in a small cave at the base of the South Peak, often used by the monks. It was not clear if the South Peak was used in the shoot. They used this cave quite often. The cave we encountered was very discreet and did not stand out. Maybe this is the intention of the film, but perhaps grander plans are afoot and required a little aid to visualize it. Perhaps this is Luke's cave.
Right, and it should be noted that at Skellig Michael Island is an old Christian monastery that dates all the way back to the 7th century, and it looks so new and fresh because people haven't been allowed to go there.
Yeah, and there actually is there's a video, I believe, that on the bottom of that article on Star Wars 7 News to where you can see it. It says Team Jedi News Journey to Skellig Michael Island. So you can check that out. That's it. That's it for all the movie stories. There were a lot of them. It was a lot of fun to talk about all that stuff. And now it's that time of the show that we simply call What's the Deal with Canon? This is all the stuff in the Star Wars universe. Can be the books, the comics, the video games, anything that ultimately links back to the movies. We talk about it here. And the first thing up today, Mark, is...
Well, it's not about a Han Solo movie. It's about Knights of the Old Republic. Cinelinx is reporting they have 3 separate sources who are indicating that the original Knights of the Old Republic game is being updated for release on current generation consoles, and that there might be new upgrades added, so even people who played the original games would get new stuff to discover. Kristian, I'm sure you're a little moved by this.
Sell. Of course, a big buy, big buy, big buy. But I have a lot of questions. I mean, I've been talking about it. I've been predicting it on this, that eventually we're going to get a Knights of the Old Republic again. Now, this is a rumor. We don't know for sure. Nothing's been announced. I've just been saying, I think that it's coming back. It's coming back. I thought they were going to announce it at E3. They did another Old Republic trailer. But the Knights of the Old Republic getting a reboot is great. My question is, does it play in to the new canon? Because the Old Republic thing that they have, this new extension, does not. It's just another extent. So are they going to, because it's so popular and they want to update it for the new consoles, they're just going to kind of reissue this the way that they reissue Legend books? So I hope that's not the case. I hope that when we get a clear-cut answer, if they indeed do this, that this is the way the Old Republic is formed. And we might get, what I'm hoping is, we get this announcement after The Force Awakens, because there's reference to the Old Republic that goes, aha. But, yeah. Aha. John, I'll give you a buy or sell on Movie Talk. Is this going to happen?
Oh, totally buy it. Okay. Totally buy it's going to happen. And remember back in the day, those grand, optimistic, wide-eyed, full of dreams day when the continuity people over at Lucasfilm came to us and said, everything from now on that comes out, video games, books, comic books, and the movies, everything is going to be official canon. We're already starting to see chips in that armor, I think. That's already starting to come apart a little bit. And I think it was inevitable it had to. I think they were just getting a little far ahead of themselves. How much this ties in, because the original game, if you know the game, it doesn't quite fit with the canon that we know and understand now, really.
It could.
There are parts of it that do. Yeah. There's certainly parts of it that do, but there are parts of it that don't. Right. And it's either canon or it's not. So maybe they update it to just correct the things that
Yeah.
weren't canon for and say now it fits even better in. I have a feeling, but we already heard them go back a little bit, like on Battlefront. That depending on how you play
Battlefront different though because it didn't have an actual story that you play through.
Right,
It's
but there's
just-
still events that happen in the game.
True, that some
Right.
of them are,
So
right.
once again, it just goes to prove that you can't be so absolute in saying all games, all comics,
Right.
all everything. They're starting to realize it's not as simple as that. But this is great news. As soon as this comes out, and as soon as the Xbox comes out with that mouse and keyboard that they've been talking about, I really prefer gaming with a mouse and keyboard. I don't like controllers. But as soon as they do, I'm all over this. This is great news. I'm super excited about it. I cannot wait to play an updated version of this.
Now, Mark, you know I've been talking about this for as long as I've known you. So,
Ad nauseum.
Ad nauseum. So do you, because they're updating it and they're putting it on, if they are indeed updating it, is this something you'd be actually interested this time doing a run with?
I mean, yeah, I'd try it out. Then I'd probably thank you and your wife for a lovely evening and go home because I don't own any of these consoles. And I don't know if this is enough to make me rush out and buy a PS4 or an Xbox One. It's exciting that they're updating it. This seems to me like they're dipping their toe in the waters and seeing how excited fans get when they have new Knights of the Old Republic content of any kind. They update it. I don't think any of this is going to be canon, but it's their way of testing the ground and saying,
Yeah,
wait,
smart.
do people really care about this? And if so, then we can make further news stories that are indeed canon. But I don't think any of this is going to count as canon.
All right, what's next?
We are talking about the Shattered Empire comic series, and StarWars.com had an awesome interview with Greg Rucka, who wrote it, and he said that he gave some insight into the Star Wars universe that we're going to see, how the Big Three fit into the story. It seems that the Big Three are going to be more in passing than the primary focus of it, but we're going to get to see a married couple that are veterans of the rebellion struggle against the Empire. We're going to be taking to planets not yet seen in the Star Wars films and get a look at the seeds of, get ready, Kristian and John, the First Order. What do you guys think about this?
Oh, man. I mean, we're as excited as I am for Aftermath. This is now the series that I really want to read for the comics because it goes back to what we were saying before when the question was posed to J.J. Abrams. If you were able to see what happened since Return of the Jedi, who is Luke Skywalker, who is this person, even if they're not the main characters, we're starting to find out what happened. It's the appetizers leading up to December of what we're going to see and where we are in this universe. So I don't mind, again, that we don't have the main characters as the main characters from the original trilogy as the main characters in the series. That's fine. Going back to John's point earlier, you have a huge universe. Give me some new characters. Maybe they show up later on down the line. Maybe they don't. But as long as you give me the characters that I know and love, and they pop up and they're helping out and they're here, you're learning more. Because it goes back to what Kathleen Kennedy was saying, that these characters have changed over the years. And you know that they have. We're going to start to learn how. But John, Shattered Empire. You hear Greg Rucka talk about it. What are you thinking?
There's nothing to not be excited about. This sounds incredible. And it sounds like they're handling it right as far as giving us a peppering of what we want. You're right. I want the Star Wars universe to expand, not make it smaller and smaller and smaller. So the idea that we have the big three in there, yes. They're not necessarily the focus, yes. Everything sounds good. Showing us the seeds and what leads into becoming the First Order, yes. That's what we've been asking for at this point. Everything about this sounds good to me.
Mark?
Yeah, just the fact that Greg Rucka has such a great track record with both Marvel and DC properties, and he's the guy that's writing this series, is exciting to me. I'd probably be more prone to reading this series than I would be playing one of the new video games coming out because this is the journey to the Force Awakens. I mean, this is what we've been talking about. You get to hear by reading this kind of stuff. So I want to see, particularly that First Order. I'm much more interested in how the Empire rebounds than I am anything on the Rebel side because you're going to get to see the Big Three in passing. You're going to get to meet new heroes, but I want to see how the Empire handled the defeat at the hands of the Ewoks and how they rebuild or how much rebuilding even took place where the rest of them were.
Yeah, and it looks like that's definitely going to be a main focus here. Okay, and if you want to check out that interview with Greg Rucka, go over to StarWars.com. It's over there. It's a great interview. All right, Mark, what is next?
We got a new issue in stores, and it is Lando Numero Dos. Kristian, you read it. Did you love it?
I did, very much so. I thought that when you heard about a Lando series, it was going to be like, okay, he's just going to kind of be smuggling and doing a Lando thing. How long is that going to last before you get bored? The Emperor shows up in this episode. He is smuggling this particular ship out, but it kind of ties back into some Clone Wars stuff that I thought was interesting. There's a brand new character at the very end that is almost like a Boba Fett type character that is talking to the Emperor. He is ruthless, but he's calculated. He's a bounty hunter, and I'm hoping that we see more of this guy. I saw him for a couple of frames, and I'm like, well, who is that guy? More of that dude. And Lando and Lobot have a great back and forth. They had it in the first one. I was wondering if I was how much of it it was going to just seem like, okay, they're just doing banter for the sake of having banter, and it doesn't. I believe their friendship. I believe everything kind of happening, and it is absolutely true to what Lando's character is and always has been. So I'm really digging this series so far. It fits into the rest of the universe that I've been reading in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah, Marvel Cinematic Universe in the Star Wars world.
If you had told me the Emperor was going to show up in one of these comic book series coming up, I would not have guessed Lando.
Right.
Do him and Lando, are they just happen to be at Mohegan Sun at the same weekend, or do they have some sort of business that they're discussing?
Lando doesn't interact with the Emperor. Lando's not even in the vicinity of the Emperor. That's all I'll say.
Well, the cover is pretty cool with him sitting in the Emperor's throne. That's pretty cool.
It's
So he's taking a selfie.
Yeah. So if you're reading the comics, you should definitely check out Lando. I think that it's one that I actually, and I was reviewing Vader from last week. This issue blew away the Vader issue from last week. I mean, it was clear, it's concise, it all made sense. It wasn't confusing at all, and I really enjoyed this one. So check it out if you're not reading Lando and you're a big fan of Lando, or just in general the storytelling that's happening in the Star Wars universe. It's worth checking out. I know we have one more, Mark. What do you got?
That's right. If you like comic books, do you like real books? They have less pictures but more words. We're going to talk about Star Wars Battlefront Twilight Company. Random House has posted the official synopsis of the upcoming Star Wars novel, Battlefront Twilight Company. Written by Alexander Freed, it is inspired by the hotly anticipated video game Star Wars Battlefront and follows a squad of soldiers caught in the trenches of the ultimate galactic war between good and evil. The book is expected to be released on November 3rd, 2015. Kristian, you love Star Wars. You're excited about Battlefront. You're not a huge Twilight guy. What do you think about this?
This is the book that I am the least excited for.
Really?
That being said, this particular story sounds like Saving Private Ryan or Band of Brothers or something.
Sounds like Rogue One to me.
It sounds like it's got a Rogue One, Band of Brothers type feel. I'm a little more interested than I was beforehand. But it's just the fact, and I think that had this taken place during the time of Rogue One or after Jedi, then I would have been more excited. But the fact that it's taken place in between 4 and 5 again, it seems like everything, until we're allowed to tell you about things in The Force Awakens, everything's going to take place in between 4 and 5, and that's another one here. Unless this takes place right after 5, I think, general area, but I think it's between 4 and 5. Anyway, that being said, I like what I'm hearing. I want to learn about the characters. Just referencing again what we just talked about, if you set up good characters in the universe that aren't Luke and Leia and all these people, and I care about them, then I'll be on this show the week after I read it, raving about it. But if you don't give me a character that I really care about, you're going to lose me quick with this one because I just don't care as much. But John, you hear this? Am I wrong?
No, I have no interest in this book at all.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I mean, I've picked up and read a couple, like a Halo thing and some Warcraft novels, and generally these little novels that are really just cranked out there just to, hey, there's an awful lot of people who play this game, let's get a bunch of them to buy this book. I've never found one that has intrigued me or appealed to me, and this one, I'll be honest with you, I don't have any plans to even read this one.
Yep.
It seems like this is just like another regular season game, and that we're already in the postseason, where it's like, yeah, we won that game or we lost that game, and it meant something back then, and now we don't really factor in anymore. But reading it, it sounds like Twilight Company, they're the rebels of the rebels, where the rebels had orders to fall back, and then a mysterious ally comes along that changes the landscape, and then Twilight Company forms, and they're like, no, we can go get the Empire now. But again, I'm not sure from this excerpt when this is taking place.
I thought it was between 4 and 5, or it's right after 5. It's one of those two.
Right, but it's about Star Wars, so that's good.
Listen, I hope the same way about Dark Disciple. Remember, I was not looking. I thought Dark Disciple will be okay. I love Dark Disciple, so maybe this will be that one of those two. All right, that's it for the Canon Talk today. Now it is time where we hear from you guys. Throughout the last couple of weeks, last week, you have been sending out hashtag Collider Jedi Council. We have been looking at them, taking them. We're going to answer your questions today. Mark, what is up in the Twitter sphere?
A young Jedi by the name of LJ Malone is first up, and he wants to know if we'll get a lightsaber duel in The Force Awakens, and if so, who's going to duel?
I think everybody here agrees that there will be one, correct?
I'm not so sure.
No, well, then let's start with you. What do
Yeah,
you,
I'm not so sure that there will be. I am like everybody else. I want one. I do want a lightsaber duel in this thing, but I have a feeling we're not going to get one yet. I think they're going to go. I think JJ's going to show us you can have a fun, exciting, awesome Star Wars universe movie without a lightsaber fight. I mean, the best part, which is kind of weird for us to think, it's alien to us, because like the best part of the entire prequel trilogy was the lightsaber fight.
and there's never been a Star Wars movie without one.
And there's never been a Star Wars movie without one. I'm not going to sit here and say there's not going to be one, but I'm not so convinced there will be.
I think there definitely will be. What, Mark?
Yes, there's going to be a lightsaber fight.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Why'd you look at Michael J. Fox just now?
How can there not be a lightsaber fight?
Who's Kylo Ren going to have a lightsaber battle with?
He's got to smack people around. Is what he's going to do.
Yeah, but who's going to have a lightsaber?
I think he's
going
to
to wield
I
it?
think he's going to wind up. Boyega's going to wind up training or something, and by the end, he's going to
It's
go
a
up.
lot to cover.
Captain Phasma might just rip the end of her gun off
Maybe.
and just start going toe to
And
toe with
fight
him.
Kylo?
I don't know. There's
I don't
going to be a lightsaber
There will
fight.
be, but I think that if you get one, it will most not if when you get one, it will most likely be Boyega getting decimated by Han Solo. Oh, we got another breaking story here.
Well, I'm just getting tweeted here. I'm getting some people tweeting me saying Star Wars 7 News is now carrying alleged pictures of Luke from Star Wars Episode 7.
Star Wars 7 News.
Yes, I believe it's Star Wars 7 News. They say, yes, Star Wars 7 News reportedly. I'm having this tweeted to me here live on the
This is
fly.
exclusive
We've
first.
been known to break some stories on this very set while we're rolling. Could this be another one? We'll find out.
Oh, I see it. You guys want to see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's.
That looks pretty awesome. Looks like Obi-Wan.
That is awesome.
What the
Wow.
hell? Is that photoshopped?
It doesn't look photoshopped.
We're gonna have
me.
to edit
I don't
this
know.
in. We're gonna have
Could
to
be-
edit this into the show. We're gonna have to edit
Could be
this.
Photoshop.
I don't
it looks
think
pretty
this.
good.
I don't think this is photoshopped, and this looks like.
It almost looked like he's on set of a promotional photography.
He
or
looks
something.
clean.
Certainly does look clean, and he does not look
Okay,
evil.
we will bring this picture up so you guys can see it
Yes.
as we're
Yeah,
talking
it doesn't
about
look
it.
evil. It looks very Desert Storm to me. You got the white, you have the tan in there. It looks classic, like rebel looking, regal looking garb to me.
Star Wars 7 points out that it certainly brings to mind the light side Jedi garb from the old Knights of the Old Republic video game. Wow,
Yes.
it really
Yes.
does. It really
Yeah.
does. Wow. Okay, so that's amazing that we got that out quick.
I also just got tweeted a picture of an action figure of a Jar Jar Binks Star Wars The Force Awakens action figure that I'm just going to cross my fingers and hope is a
That's
Photoshop.
probably definitely Photoshop. Okay, so that's so everyone's in agreement that we're gonna I think we're gonna see Luke fight Snoke at some point. Certainly don't think it's gonna happen in Episode 7.
Yeah, because he's only got 5 minutes, according to you, to get that done in
That's right.
Episode 7.
Right. Okay. What's the next one?
Maybe Han dies in the lightsaber fight.
Maybe.
Okay. Addison Pettiford is next up and writes, should there be a book about Luke's time between 5 and 6 since he didn't go back and train with Yoda?
Yes. I think that they need to make up Heir to the Jedi because that was such a throwaway story and not a good story at all that I want to see more. I want to learn more about Luke. Especially, I would prefer that if they're going to do a book like that, give it to me after we see this Luke that we just saw from Star Wars 7 is like after he's been, you know, as powerful as he is. I want to learn more about his training from after what happened, like after he left Yoda or after Dagobah, because between that time when he comes back to Jabba's palace,
He's badass.
He's a badass dude. Like when he goes from 4 to 5, you see that kind of. Even for Heir to the Jedi, which I didn't love, there were still parts of it that I thought were cool to where he was learning and trying to teach himself, and it was okay. That part I buy that. That's probably how he tried to teach himself, but it was kind of sloppy. When he gets back to Jabba's palace, man, he's force choking Gamorrean guards up top, so he learned how to do all that stuff. I think that's a book or at least a comic somewhere. But Mark, what do you think?
All due respect, I could force choke a Gamorrean guard. They're not the most intelligent beings on Tatooine. Yeah, I'd love to see how he gained those powers because you would assume he would just have gone back to Dagobah. But it's pretty clear in Return of the Jedi when he asks, "Is Darth Vader my father?" that he has not seen Yoda since he laid eyes on him in Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, let's see the Jimmy trained at, man.
Joe?
This is one of those things where I don't really need to know, but yeah, as a book or a comic, please not a dedicated movie. As a book or comic, sure, it's worth exploring in material like that.
I'm totally with you there. No movie for that one. Yeah, we don't need it. Okay, so what's next?
Cambier Julian writes, could we see the Emperor in Rogue One or in other Star Wars movies? Really love the show.
As far as Rogue One goes, the only way you're going to see him is hologram. I think you're doing too much if you put him in there, and I don't think you want to waste him in that. Now, as far as another movie goes, if the story's right, yeah, you can see him and you should see him. I hope so. I mean, I would still love. I don't have any dollars on me today, but I still would love to see that Plagueis movie. And if they are able to adapt something and revamp that story for James Luceno and the way he put that together as a young Palpatine into the Palpatine that we know, could be very fascinating, interesting. But even if that one doesn't come to fruition, I would like to see him again. I still think a Darth Vader standalone movie, all on its own, could be really good. I think a Vader movie, he's the one villain that you can actually follow around. It's hard to have a movie about a villain that people are going to follow. He's the one guy that you could really probably take it to the bank that you're going to make a lot of money on a Vader standalone, and something like Lords of the Sith in an area like that to where he is still learning about himself as this Dark Lord of the Sith, to have the Emperor in there. It's possible. But, John, you think we'll ever see the Emperor in standalone movies?
I think you nailed it. I think there's a possibility we'll see a hologram. Oh, but I'm not even convinced we'll see that. Look, we're getting Vader in Rogue One, and that's really all we need.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, keep the man behind the curtain as much as you can. That's part of the reason why Lords of the Sith was so great, was because the Emperor is never used like that. And then they used him like that once, very effective. You just start throwing him out there and using him in everything, it becomes a little bit diminished.
And even in Rebels, when he shows up in Rebels, it's hologram. It's like, this is what you're going to do. I still have you by the leash. Go do your thing. Come back to this. He's there. He's very much a presence. But this is the way he was a presence in Episode 5.
Right.
I think you'll definitely see him. Regardless of whether you love the prequels or don't like them, the Emperor is one of the best parts, and he carried those movies for a time. So I think you're definitely going to see the Emperor in Rogue One. Maybe just in hologram form. Maybe you get a scene. He's not going to be one of these star villains of it, but you're going to see that dude in Rogue One. I'd put money on it. Not a lot.
Ian McDermott, right, who plays that role. Not many people, a twin brother to Dylan McDermott. And and by the way, just a little side, and he's awesome, and he's still with us today. Also, one of the greatest comedies of all time, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. So go see the Emperor in that.
Right.
That's right. All right, Mark, what's next?
Who-Man writes, would you be on board with Star Wars Boba Fett if he never removed his mask and the story was just one mission like Dread?
If that was the movie, that if they forced my hand and like, you have to go see, forced my hand to go see a Star Wars movie, but they's like, that's the movie we're making Boba Fett regardless. Let's say, like we said, we think Josh Trank was going to do that movie. That's the movie. It's what this guy just suggested. Yes, that's the Boba Fett I want to see. I don't want to see him, I think you said it the other day, take off his mask and he's kicking back. He's got his feet up, paying bills, and having the missus make a mistake. And I don't want to see that. I want to see him in the Mandalorian culture with the badass women like Sabine and the I don't want to see a daughter. I want to see him working with other Mandalorians in this mission. But John,
no FaceTime.
Yeah.
Minimal dialogue. I don't want to know everything about Boba. I know everything I need to know about Boba Fett, okay? He's a badass. End of story. That's all I need to know. When he shows up, something bad is about to go down. That's all I need to know. Yes, take the Dread approach. Minimize the amount of lines he has. Keep that mask on. And maybe this could work really, really well.
You could get Ryan Gosling from Drive to play him. Just very little dialogue, doesn't say a lot, emotes. That's the way I'd like to see Boba Fett on the big screen as well.
All right, what's next?
Carl Heinebeck writes, seeing Donmal Gleeson in the new Entertainment Weekly photos reminded me a lot of Tarkin. Could General Hux be his descendant?
Possible. If he's not my first theory, then yeah, that would be my second theory. I think he'd probably be Tarkin's descendant.
Yeah, it would make sense too. Once again, this goes against a little bit what we were talking about before about, look, why does he have to be Lando's son? Why? Because why do we have to make the universe small and make him a descendant of Tarkin? If you read Tarkin, which is supposed to be canon, it would make sense. The Emperor had had an affection for Tarkin. The Emperor trusted and liked and honored Tarkin very much. So therefore, it's not outside. It's not a stretch to then think that if Tarkin had offspring and had a son, look, the Emperor's all about going after, his right-hand guy's sons. Then bring him up as to be potentially a great military genius. I don't think that's the way they're going to go, but it would make sense, and I would accept it.
But it depends on who's running it, though, too, because the Emperor at that point, I guess, would be toast by the time that dude was even born, right? Maybe not. Depends.
Yeah, it depends.
Well,
it really
depends. And Tarkin himself was toast. also. I mean,
Yeah,
Well,
so
descendant.
how
He'd be like
old are they
his
saying
grandfather.
General
So
Hux
he-
is? How old are they saying he
It would be,
is?
yeah, so it
right?
depends.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Grandson?
Hux comes.
It would be
Hux
grandson.
definitely knew somebody in the military, but
Yeah.
I don't think that it's somebody that we've met before because JJ, as secrecy was between not giving away certain last names, he said General Hux. Yeah, that's just a name we have. So I don't think he's related to anybody we already heard of.
Okay, what's next?
Adam Means is next up. The prophecy said the Sith would be that the Sith would be destroyed. Are the Knights of Ren a replacement for the Sith?
When I first heard about the Knights of Ren, I was like, "Well, wait a minute. What about the Sith? Does that mean we're not? Does that mean that Snoke is kind of hiding in the shadows? That he actually is a Sith Lord, and that might still be the case?" But then I was like, you know what? The Sith had their time with the dark side of the Force. Who's to say that only the Jedi and only the Sith are the only ones who can use the Force? If this band of new Knights of the Ren are these guys that are now serve as the Sith and have new mantras and a brand new religion, and they don't just crave over the power, and they're able to survive without just being the rule for two, then you know what? They could absolutely be a replacement for the Sith and could also give you that army that I thought we were going to get, the army of the Sith. This might be the army. The Knights of Ren might be your army that we thought we were going to get. But, John, you think they're a replacement for the Sith? Will we see Sith?
Good question. I mean, it all depends on how tight they want to stick to that rule of two. If there was a rule of two, then the two got killed at the same time. So, but I like what you're suggesting. I mean, who's to say? Look, there's the light and the dark side of the Force. That isn't, there's always been Sith and Jedi.
Right.
Jedi just became the ones who kind of came around to study and practice the light side of the Force. The Sith were the ones who came around to practice the dark side of the Force. Who's to say it's always got to be Sith? It could be a new thing. Maybe the Knights of Ren are the replacement for that. It would seem to make sense.
Mark?
I think they're a faction that shoots up from it, but I still think you got your Sith and you got your Jedi, and those are the two ones. I mean, this guy is Kylo Ren is a huge fan of Darth Vader. Darth Vader subscribed to the theory of the Sith. He's searching for Darth Vader and maybe Vader-like relics, so I think that he is still, even Kylo Ren in his head, is thinking Sith.
All right. Is that the last one? How many more we got?
We got two more.
Okay.
Trevor writes, what do you guys think the chances are of the official synopsis of The Force Awakens being revealed at D23?
I think you got a good shot at that. I mean, I think that if JJ's given a lot away in this article, that I wouldn't be shocked if he gave you, this is what the story is about. It hasn't been doing things traditionally the way most studios do with how you promote movies and tell the story, and we're 4 months away from it. I wouldn't be shocked. I still think we'd probably most likely get like a poster finally. But yeah, Mark, what do you think?
I don't think you're getting an official synopsis.
No.
I think you're going to get like a cool thing on stage, like a droid or something. You're going to get some cast. Maybe you get a poster. They're going to wow you with a cool Rogue One teaser, and that's going to be your Star Wars experience at D23.
I'd say there's a good 70% chance we get an official synopsis. We are now, look, for a long time, we've been Star Wars is so far away.
Right.
It ain't that far away anymore. We're 4 months away from Star Wars. This is not too early to be dropping an official synopsis. It's not. Do I think they're definitely going to? Not necessarily, but I would say I will not be shocked at all if they give us an official synopsis. I would go so far as to say 70% chance they will.
It's a good chance. I actually looked at the last Twitter question, and it is exactly one of the other ones that we discussed today. So that is going to be it. I am so happy you guys were able to join us today for the supersized episode of Jedi Council. I'd like to thank the council today. First, Mark 2D2, where can they find you?
Streaking at D23, win, rain, or shine. Online at 5150L is Twitter, Instagram.
There he is, Obi-John Kenobi. Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook and follow me at Twitter, simply at John Campia.
You can find the three of us at D23. If you're there, please come up, say hello. We're going to be there on Friday and Saturday. We'll be there for the Star Wars panel to find out exactly what is going on. Follow us all on Twitter if you're not going to be there to see our reactions of what we saw. And by the way, if you didn't know, we are on iTunes. If you want to check it out, go on any of, not just iTunes, anywhere that covers podcasts, look for Collider Video, right? Collider Video, is
Yep,
that?
Collider or Collider Video.
Look
Yep.
for Collider Video, and you can download it. It has all of the shows that we do here. You can find Heroes, you can find Movie Talk and Mailbag. All of it is here, especially Jedi Council.
And Jedi Council.
And make sure you do that. Go and check out that for your podcast. And we're going to be doing a supersized episode, probably, maybe, depends on what we're going to get next week for D23. Dennis is sweating. And thank you so much, Kristian Harloff at Twitter and Instagram. So happy you guys were able to join us. Click like, let people know about this show, and may the Force be with you.